Hi, this is Maria Olson. You may know me from Trophy Heads or Starry Eyes and maybe Paranormal Activity 3. And I want to welcome you to Anthony T's Horror Show because it's an awesome show.
Hi, my name is Jessica Cameron, and you're listening to Anthony T's Horror Show.
Hey, fellow horror fans. This is Troy Escamilla, the director of Party Night and Mrs. Claus, and you are listening to Anthony T's Horror Show. Enjoy.
Welcome to another edition of Anthony T's Wrestling Show. Oh, wait a minute. Don't mind me, I'm just so excited. I get to talk about one of my favorite wrestlers as he stars in one of the films I'm going to talk about at the end of the program. I am so sorry, I really thought this was a wrestling show. But anyway, welcome to another edition of Anthony T's Horror Show. I'm Anthony T. In this edition, I will be talking to director Aaron Mento, director of Ugly Sweater Party, which is currently available on Blu-ray. I also have some thoughts on why I think Marvel is afraid of horror. But first, the news. I'm kicking off the news with some really good news. We got some news recently that Don't Breathe 2 has been pretty much greenlit, as there's been movement on this film. If you remember, the film came out back in 2016. It was a huge hit. And afterwards, we've heard nothing about a potential sequel. There was one rumored to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Now we can say this will probably be happening. I'm excited for this film. I don't know how this film's going to do, considering it's been 4 years since the original came out. By the time the next film comes out, there's no release date or anything, so it could be another year before this film comes out. But still, it's been a while since Don't Breathe came out. But it's nice to see that we're getting a sequel to Don't Breathe 2. The film is going to be directed by Rodo Sayagas, if I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm not, I apologize, because it's really a hard name to pronounce. He co-wrote Don't Breathe, and he's taking the director's reins from Fede Alvarez. I don't know if this is a good move or not, because I like Fede Alvarez as a director. He did a great job with the Evil Dead remake and with the first Don't Breathe film. So I don't know if this is going to be a good movie or not. We also know that Stephen Lang will be back in the sequel as the blind man. That's good, because he was very good in Don't Breathe. It's nice to see that he's coming back to the second film. Not sure if Jane Mosh is coming back, as there's been no news on that. So keep an eye out for it. I don't mind this film having a sequel. Just the fact that it's been like 4 years, and I'm not sure if it's going to do well enough. So that'll be something to keep an eye on in the coming weeks. As it's nice to see that get at least a sequel, because I kind of want to see more of the blind man as a character. So I can't wait for this film to come out. If I have to guess, maybe later this year, early 2021, but it's just a guess at this point because there's been no release date set or anything. But it's good that we are getting a Don't Breathe sequel. Next up in convention news, and this is a really sad piece of news that came out between episodes. It's the fact that Rock and Shock is no more. There was a statement on their official Facebook page that came out on January 17th saying that they have folded the convention as it was pretty much due to the landscape of the convention scene nowadays. Now, Rock and Shock was really a very good convention. I went pretty much the last 3 years of the convention. I had a very good time each of the years as I had fun hanging out there, meeting nice celebs. The convention always seemed to run smoothly, which I really loved a lot. And it's truly something I'm really going to miss, really, as I always look forward to Rock and Shock every year, as that's usually was the premier horror convention here in the New England area. Now, this pretty much, I think, leaves a major void, as you have other conventions out there like CT Horror Fest, ScareCon New England, and TerrorCon out there, but none of those I would consider as the premier horror con in New England. It's going to be very interesting to see if one of these conventions step up, or if there's going to be a new horror con that comes along to take over the reins as the premier horror convention here in the New England area. Because I'm going to tell you the truth, the fact that Rock and Shock folded really made me sad, because it's a convention I, again, loved to go to. Plus, this was the best convention in the New England area for horror fans. And it's really sad now that we don't have a big horror convention type show like Rock and Shock. It is really sad that we're not going to have one this year, because when I think of premier conventions, I think the best of the best. And right now, if I had to say which is the premier horror convention here in the New England area, I probably would have trouble finding an answer, because I really like ScareCon New England a lot. I like CT Horror Fest a lot. So it's either one of those two. I really hope they both step it up so they can get that title here in the New England area as the premier horror convention. Or there could be another horror convention that comes along and takes that title. So it's going to be a very interesting convention season here in the New England area, as pretty much the major horror convention in theory now, as I look at it today, is TerrorCon. And that's a convention that runs every 3 years. Maybe TerrorCon sees a boost this year. If that happens, then that I would definitely see as the premier horror convention in the New England area. If not, then it's probably going to be either ScareCon New England or CT Horror Fest, because those are the two longest running horror conventions now here in the New England area. But it's tough because I just can't call either of them the premier horror convention. And it's just because I can't rival either of those conventions to say Monster Mania or Days of the Dead. With Rock and Shock, you can say that it's on a level with Monster Mania and Days of the Dead. But with the 3 horror conventions we have here in the New England area, you can't say that. I'm sorry. You just cannot say that about any of the 3 conventions. I'm hoping somebody takes that title, because the New England area really now needs a big horror convention. And I'm hoping TerrorCon becomes that, seriously. Not because I'm here from the great state of Rhode Island. It's just, I want that convention where I can look forward to going every year knowing, oh, it's that time of the year and I cannot wait. that. Because the way I look at the convention scene right now, you have dates for CT Horror Fest, you have dates for TerraCon, and that's pretty much it here in the New England area. That's pretty much the only two horror conventions I'm looking forward to going to right now. I'm hoping ScareCon New England runs this year, because I would love to go back there, because that, I think, is a very good convention, but it just feels sad that New England has lost its premier horror convention. Hopefully something can rise out of the ashes of Rock and Shock and take over that mantle. Maybe something new, or one of the conventions I mentioned. It hurts. It really hurts that Rock and Shock is no more. And this came out of left field. I was surprised when I heard the news, because I really thought last year was a very good year. It felt way better than the year before, and it looked very busy to me, both on Saturday and Sunday, when Bruce Campbell was in. So I don't know what happened or what went wrong in causing this convention to cancel. I could understand if the reason is the landscape of the convention scene, because let's face it, it's not like what it used to be. Now they're out to make money. So I really hope something comes back in its place, because if not, I'm probably going to miss having a October horror convention. It is really sad that Rock and Shock is no more. And finally, since I mentioned TerraCon, they have started announcing guests for the upcoming convention that takes place June 13th and 14th at the Rhode Island Convention Center. They've announced 3 guests so far. They've announced John Carroll Lynch from American Horror Story. They've announced Bob Elmore, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and John Kazar from Tales of the Crypt. Now, these names pretty much don't excite me at the moment, as I'm kind of the person that would like to see headliners be announced first, because I want to be very excited about this convention right off the bat. The fact that there's no really noteworthy names announced yet really makes me feel like I'm in a wait and see approach. I'm still going no matter what, because it's taking place in my area. But I'm hoping they really announce some big guests soon, so I can be excited for this convention, as nothing really moves the needle for me as to being excited. But we've got a long ways to go, so I can't complain. But there's really a complaint I have with this convention. After looking at all the guests and everything, and I'll talk about this in March, because I don't have time this episode to. But I really do have a major gripe with this upcoming convention, so I will probably hold off on that till maybe March, because we'll get more guest announcements, obviously, in February, so I will hold off on really complaining about this lineup, even though I complained a little bit already, until at least we see what they're doing at this convention, because there is something that I personally don't like, as I feel it's taking up too much of the convention floor. I'll talk more about it in March, since I'm not going to talk about it next month because it's Women in Horror Month, so I will table this till March. But I'm really not happy with what I'm seeing with TerraCon, because that's just way too many guests for a certain subsection of the convention. With that, that's the news. Every day there's a family struggling with hospital bills to care for their sick child who is fighting an illness. There's a woman who is fighting breast cancer and is having trouble making ends meet while paying for their treatment. And there are burn victims that are going through treatments to heal their deep wounds. There is a charity in the horror community that helps these people. Scares That Care is an organization that helps families deal with the bills for their child. They help women get the treatment they need to fight breast cancer, and they help people who are dealing with severe burns get the help they need to heal. Scares That Care is a 100% volunteer organization, and 501c3 nonprofit charity that is dedicated to helping these people in fighting real monsters. To find out more information or to donate to Scares That Care, you can go to www.scaresthatcare.org. Every donation helps Scares That Care fight real monsters.
Hey guys, this is Steve and Christina. I'm the founder, owner, creator, and host of Super Retro Throwback Reviews. Are you looking for the best movie reviews, music reviews, video game reviews, and Comic-Con coverage all around? Well then look no further. Definitely check out Super Retro Throwback Reviews on YouTube and our new audio podcast, the new and improved Super Retro Throwback Reviews audio files version 2.0 on the following media distributors: Podbean, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify.
Class is over, John. Time for something new and improved.
The following commentary contains views that are not representative of the Doc Discussions Network, meaning they're the views of mine and mine only. Welcome back. Now, between the last episode in November and now, there's been a lot of news. But the news that's really irate me the most is the fact that Scott Dickerson has left Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, if you remember back, say a couple months ago, when Marvel had their big reveal on the next phase of Marvel films, that they said Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness would be a horror film? Well, it looks like they may have changed their minds. Like I told you, Scott Dickerson has left the project due to what people are saying, creative differences. Now, I'm going to theorize here. So, this is not news or anything. This is my theory to why Scott Dickerson left Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And it all has to do with the horror genre. When Scott Dickerson revealed that this film would be a horror film, well, Kevin Feige has cleared everything up. And this could be one of the reasons, or main reason, why Scott Dickerson left the project. According to an article on Cinema Blend, Kevin Feige cleared things up in a quote about the upcoming Doctor Strange film. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a horror film, but it'll be a big MCU film with scary sequences in it. First of all, Scott Dickerson said at San Diego Comic-Con that this was going to be a horror film. As now I've figured out where this announcement came from, as I'm still looking at this article as I talk. Now the film is seemed to be going under script changes, which usually means it's not a good sign if we're late into pre-production and the script is being changed in a major way. This feels like they've changed their mind on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, as it seems like Kevin Feige of Marvel Studios is afraid to make a horror film. If you go to cinemablend.com, there's a really good article on it too, which I shared on the Facebook page right after I talked about it briefly in the intro to last episode. But now back to the topic. Do I think Kevin Feige is afraid of making a horror film in the MCU? Well, I'm really believing yes. Because it's kind of very unusual to change the script in a major way near the end of pre-production. Because you have to stop filming this film, as this film already has a release date for next year. So it has to be out at that time. I know they can move it back or move it forward, but it seems like they have their heart's content on putting Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness on that date. And they're not going to change it for anything. Still, I truly believe the major change may be the fact that they may be taking the horror elements out of this film. Sure, I'll probably have a scary sequence or two, but when I heard this film being announced, I was so excited because it was going to be a horror film. Now, if Kevin Feige's taking that away, that's just ridiculous. Because I really think it makes him look very scared. Has he seen the New Mutants enough that, well, horror is not going to work here in the MCU? So we're just going to change Doctor Strange because we feel that the New Mutants is probably going to bomb so bad that we really don't want to try horror with a proven commodity like Doctor Strange. My response to it is BS. Because personally, you need to make these films different. You cannot continue making the standard comic book film every time. I know it works every time for Marvel, but it would be nice for them to go outside the box and make a full-fledged horror film. What happens when they're going to make Blade? That has to be an R-rated film. Because if you do a PG-13 Blade, I don't think that film's going to work as a PG-13 property. They really need to try and think outside the box. They've got a lot of properties that can make them do that. Look at Joker. That film made a ton of money at the box office, and yet that was rated R. Look at Deadpool and Deadpool 2. Both of those films are rated R. Those films made tons of money. I really think Kevin Feige is scared in making horror films because he's afraid he may end up getting a rated R. And that would really be a shame because Marvel has horror properties. Look at Venom, that's borderline horror. But they really should consider maybe starting to make rated R films. I know you're trying to get everybody to see your film, but if you're afraid to do horror because you are afraid that your film is rated R, then why did you tease Blade at San Diego Comic-Con last year? Because Blade is a rated R film. If it's PG-13, I don't see that working. I'm sorry. It needs to be R. What I'm trying to say is they should really consider making horror films in the MCU. And if it's rated R, so be it. Because personally, after a while, you make the same films over and over again. And yes, we will still probably go see them because we love Marvel so much. But I really think Marvel should think outside the box and try to make a horror film. If it's PG-13, that's fine. If it's rated R, that's fine. But I think, personally, Kevin Feige is scared of making horror films because he probably knows it most likely has to be an R rating. And I don't know if Kevin Feige will settle for an R rating. Because all the Marvel films that he's made have been PG-13. And seriously, there is some good PG-13 horror, but when it comes to comics, I want an R rating for a horror comic film. Just look at Joker. All I gotta say. That's my theory on the situation. You can like it or not, but it is my theory. Kevin Feige is scared of making a horror film in the MCU universe. And that's why Scott Dickerson left and just stayed on as executive producer. But it's just a theory. That's all. Besides Anthony T's horror show, you can also listen to these other fine podcasts on the Doc Discussions Network. Doc Discussions, hosted by Philip Perrone and Michael Darwin. You Know Nothing, Jon Snow, a Game of Thrones podcast. Bullets, Brothels, and Bots, a Westworld podcast. Halloween Boutique, Psychotronic Reviews. And Searching for American Gods. You can find Doc Discussions on the web at www.docdiscussions.com. And Doc Discussions is also available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. Welcome back to Anthony T's Horror Show. My guest this episode is the director of an indie horror film called Ugly Sweater Party, Aaron Mento. He's here to talk about the film. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
What made you want to get into the film business?
I think the creativity of it. I was always watching movies growing up, especially horror and like sci-fi, and I just love the creativity of telling these stories that everybody can kind of experience together. I kind of think of horror movies as like a nightmare that everybody can experience together. And I love the idea of creating something like that doesn't have rules, that everybody can kind of experience and have their own take on, and they can talk about afterwards.
Now, before I go to your latest film, I came across on the Ugly Sweater Party DVD a trailer for one of your older films, Standards of Living.
Yep, that was my first movie.
I like to talk about technology. And I noticed you shot the film on an iPad 2. Why did you use an iPad 2 to shoot the film? As I kind of find it fascinating that you can make a film on an iPad.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a bit of a health scare where I thought my left eye was going blind or something, and it turns out it was just an ocular migraine, which is just like a little headache in your eye, basically. It was something to do with like me changing my caffeine intake. But it scared me into making my first movie no matter what, like, because it just made me feel like time was limited. And so the only camera I had available to me at the time was an iPad 2 camera. So I said, why not make it on this and write a project specifically for this and kind of use the unique kind of quirky sensibilities of that device to tell a story. And so that's what I did.
Were there some challenges for filming on an iPad 2 camera?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. It was, it's only one lens on there, and it kind of likes to auto expose. So we'd have to kind of even out the lighting a lot so it didn't go crazy in the middle of a shot. And there's a lot of long takes in it. So there was that. And then the other thing that was weird about it, in more of a tech-related field for editing, for some reason it would shoot at multiple frame rates. So it would shoot at 24 frames, and all of a sudden it would be like 22.8 frames would show up in the file, and it was really weird because you can only pick one frame rate when you're editing. So that was a challenge in post for sure.
Now, what are some of the differences between shooting a film on the iPad 2 compared to a digital video camera?
You have a lot more control on a digital video camera. iPad 2 kind of just like has this weird kind of wide angle lens on it that you can't do much to. You can just kind of even out the lighting, and that's about it. And with another camera, you can control everything. You control how much light you're bringing in, how different lenses give you, a different size image for close-ups, mediums, wides. So you have a lot more kind of tools, but it was pretty liberating to not have any of those tools and to try and tell a story with almost nothing.
Now, your latest film, Ugly Sweater Party, is out on Blu-ray. Tell everyone about the film.
Yeah, so Ugly Sweater Party is like a holiday horror comedy. It's about this sweater that's possessed by the soul of a serial killer, and someone wears this ugly sweater to an ugly sweater party, and it starts to possess them, and then they start to murder off all the party guests and transform.
How do you come up with the idea for the story?
I started out with just an idea of a sweater being possessed, and I think the way I came up with that idea was I do a lot of thrift shopping, for movies and, clothes and stuff. So I always thought, like, it's interesting if, like, something has a history, something you buy used has, like, a history to it. And I think that kind of influenced the idea of, like, this ugly sweater that you would only wear to an ugly sweater party, but you get secondhand. And it's kind of like, what was the story of this piece of clothing? And what if it was, like, tied to, some horrible murders or something like that? So that's what started it. And then I didn't really have anything else outlined other than a couple guys go to a party. One of them gets possessed by the sweater. So what I did, which was a little unusual, was I met a bunch of actors through actors that I was going to cast in the movie anyway, and I wrote all the parts for specific actors I didn't write it first and then cast it. I wrote it for people that I was meeting and whose personalities kind of inspired the characters I would write. So that was a really cool process.
How did you approach casting the film? Because you said you cast it before you wrote the characters.
Yeah, so I had worked with Charles Trudaballa, he plays Cliff in the movie, on a web series called Choose Their Kill, which was a Crypt TV series that I wrote and co-created and directed. And I really got on well with Charles, and I just wanted to work with him again. So I basically came to him with the idea and was like, hey, I got this idea. It's very bare bones. I know you're plugged into the indie horror community. Maybe introduce me to some actors and it'll inspire me to write some characters. So that's pretty much how that happened. And for Felissa Rose, who I'm a huge fan of from Sleepaway Camp, she had worked with Charles and Hunter Johnson on Hunter's movie To Jennifer. So, they set up a meeting with her, and I wrote the character of Mrs. Mandix specifically for her after she said she was in.
You talked about how Felissa Rose came to be a part of the film. How did she and Whalen become a part of the film?
Well, Felissa knows Sean very well, and they've worked together a couple of times, and she recommended him highly, and I was already a huge fan of his from People Under the Stairs, among many other things. So I met with him, and then we got along great, and I wrote the part specifically for him as well.
Now, what was it like working with each of those actors on set?
It was a blast. I mean, they are entirely professional. They don't bring a whole bunch of ego or baggage. They're there to do good work, have a good time. They love the genre. They love the people and the fans. So it was a great time working with them.
Let's get back to the screenplay that you wrote. Now, one of the things I noticed heavily in the screenplay was hints of religion and Christmas. What made you want to focus on those subjects in your story?
I think I always am a little bit put off by the contradictions of some conservative religious people kind of being holier than thou and being very hateful towards people who think differently than them. So I like the idea of kind of showing the seedy underbelly of a Bible camp, which is in the movie. So the idea that there's like this Bible camp where everybody's supposed to be, working on themselves and finding God, but there's all this like seedy stuff happening underground, and the payment system and all that kind of stuff was really shady. So I find a lot of humor in that, and I liked the idea of two things. One, showing the seedy underbelly of religion, but then also there's a metal band in the movie, like an evil metal band. I like the idea of heavy metal also being like legitimately evil. Like I liked both those things contrasting together. Like that was a lot of fun.
Now, what made you put the heavy metal band in the film?
I'm a big fan of Canadian horror movies, which a lot of them have a very offbeat kind of sensibility to them, and a lot of them have like musical performances in it. I really like the movie Killer Party a lot. That was a big influence on this. And so that movie starts with a couple fake outs. Like the movie doesn't even start yet. It starts with like this metal music video that comes out of nowhere. And so I'm a big fan of like heavy metal horror too. So the idea of having this almost like Greek chorus of a heavy metal band kind of take over the movie every now and then was a lot of fun for me.
To me, the story had more of a trauma feel to it. Did any of Lloyd Kaufman's work or trauma films influenced you in any way in creating the film's story?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of trauma, so that was a huge influence on me. The Toxic Avenger is one of my favorites, as well as Nukem High. I really like Terror Firmer a lot too. So I like that anarchy, that sense of just comic anarchy mixed with the gore and the extreme raunchy comedy. I love all that stuff. When it's all firing together like that is a lot of fun.
Now, what was it like casting the main roles besides Sean and Felissa?
Well, Hunter Johnson and Charles Trudaballa, I worked with Charles before, and then I got introduced to Hunter through Charles, and they were already friends, and they already had like a chemistry together. So I wrote it with their chemistry in mind. So it was just kind of like, I really liked the process of just meeting actors and having a little bit of an idea of a character, but then really shaping it directly for these people. And so that was a lot of fun.
What was the toughest role to cast?
The toughest role to cast would probably be, I would say, Detective Brolin was a hard role. He's played by Brad Potts, who's awesome. And I had an idea for that character being very kind of hard-boiled, almost like Tom Atkins, but even more hard-boiled than that, than Night of the Creeps. So I had something in mind for that. I didn't have it written yet, but I had looked at a couple actors for that one. And when Brad Potts was recommended to me through Kevin Caliber, who plays Sean in the movie, the muscle-bound volleyball player, he was perfect. He was just incredible. He was exactly what I wanted. And so he actually was so good that he improvised a lot of his kind of vulgarities in the opening scene. So he brought a lot to that.
Since you mentioned Hard-Nosed Detective, now one of the things I liked about the screenplay was that opening scene where you introduced the sweater and everything with the cops. What made you want to start that scene off seriously, then end it so humorously?
I think definitely I wanted to, because the movie is so just crazy and chaotic, I wanted to start it like a little bit, not necessarily calm, but a little bit colder and a little bit like harder, and kind of ease people into how they should watch this movie. So it starts out, in this like kind of interrogation, but then that kind of starts to cross-cut with the pop music of the Ugly Sweater Party song, and then we're mixing black and white with different colors and stuff. So I'm kind of like, I'm trying to set the audience up for the tonal changes that are going to be coming like really fast, really soon.
Now, speaking of that song, what made you want to have the theme song have a new wave kind of feel to it?
Another reference to Killer Party. So Killer Party has this kind of pop song, it almost sounds like Bananarama or something like that. I think it's called These Are the Best Days of Our Lives, and that song plays like over and over throughout that movie. And I always loved how there was this like poppy, kind of fun, infectious theme song that strung together this like horror comedy from beginning to end. So like I always think of that song when I think of that movie.
Now, I noticed from the commentary that you used drones to shoot a couple of the scenes in the film. What made you and the DP want to shoot a couple scenes from a drone instead of the traditional way?
Just to give it more of like an epic kind of a scope. We were shooting out in the woods for some of this, and we wanted to show this wasn't just like our backyard. Like this was deep in the woods, like for real. And same with like the car shots, just like these kind of epic. It kind of for me gave it like a humorously epic feel, like the music was underlining a lot of those shots to make it seem like this is like some huge movie, even though it's not, which was a lot of fun for us too.
Now, was it easy to man the drones, or was that hard to shoot?
That's Jason Ortiz, our drone operator. He's very skilled with that. I would not know how to do that by myself. He's an expert at making sure the drone shots like follow the subject and everything like that. So I think it is hard to do, but it looks easy if you have someone who knows how to do it well.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do these days in filmmaking.
Absolutely. Yeah, really.
Because you can now get wide shots with a simple drone instead of the old days where you probably had to get a helicopter or something.
Totally. Helicopter or a crane for some things, it's pretty amazing.
What was it like finding the location for the campgrounds?
Well, same thing as the actors. I found out through our effects maestro, Richard Calderon, who also acted as our location manager, that he had access to a standing campsite in the woods that was under construction and was uninhabited, but he knew the owner of the property. And so we went up there, and I wrote the script for that property. So again, it was very loose. It was kind of like, I'm going to see what comes my way and what we have available to us, and that's what I'll write the script for.
What were some of the challenges shooting at that location?
Well, it was not inhabited for a long time, so we had to do a little cleanup. Some of the electricity needed a little bit of work, so Richard rewired some stuff. He's like a pro at like all tech stuff, and just like keeping warm. We had like space heaters and stuff like that, and a fireplace, a really big fireplace. So we're chopping the wood, bring the stuff in there. Bringing a fridge to that location was very difficult because it's kind of like dirt roads and stuff, and moving this huge fridge to get there so that we could have food and cook all our food on site was actually kind of a big endeavor.
What was your favorite moment on set directing this film?
I really loved shooting the scene between Felissa Rose and Charles Chudabala when they're in the cabin, and it's like the romantic scene where Felissa and Charles are trying to have these intimate moments, and the evil sweater starts interfering. I like that a lot.
One of the things that I also liked about this film was the fact that the way you made Sean Whalen look so very ghost-like throughout. What was it like creating those effects in the process for it?
So we shot Sean against a green screen for all those ghost effects, and we just had every single shot of him as a ghost we shot on green screen with all these different angles and different. So it was basically like trying to, edit the movie before we shot it. Like, okay, what angle are we going to need on Sean here for this ghost scene? What angle are we going to need for him here on this other scene? And then we shot plates. So, video of the woods, of some bushes, of where his ghost would be. And we wanted to make the ghost look very 80s, very like Ghostbusters, or Haunted Mansion-ish with the blue translucence.
I also liked the design of the sweater, as it had a very creepy, evil look to it. How did this design come about?
The design came about with we liked the kind of glowing pentagram in the center because it kind of gave the feeling of almost like this like furnace of evil, like inside the sweater. And then we liked the hood on it, this ugly yellow kind of hoodie sweater, because the hood could move up and cover his head as like a little mechanism to show that the sweater was kind of taking control of him. And then Richard Calderon had a whole bunch of really interesting little knickknacks and designs and cutouts that he put on there. And we made it look really like it'd been through the ringer. Like it looks like it's been passed down the line for a lot of years. It's really dirty, and there's like glitter on it too. So it definitely has that. It looks like it smells for sure.
What was the editing process like for this film?
Editing was actually pretty difficult. I edited it myself, and the reason it was difficult was that because the movie is so tonally just all over the place on purpose, trying to keep a handle on that in the editing so that the movie makes sense to an audience was a challenge. So I had like an early cut that was a lot shorter. It was like 70 minutes or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is great. But then like I took another look at it and I went, there was no room for music. There was no room for exposition at all. And like the only reason it was great to me was because I'd lived with the movie for so long. So I really had to kind of tease out scenes longer and try and figure out what the pacing needed to be to give the audience the information they needed so that they could understand the movie and enjoy it.
What made you decide to self-distribute this film instead of having this film distributed by another company?
I wanted to self-distribute it so that I could control pretty much everything about it. Like I could control what the cover artwork looks like. I could control what extras were on it. I could control the release date. We talked to some distributors who they wanted to release it like in April, and they wanted to do a totally different cover art, or they wanted to do, and like it didn't match the tone of the movie. And so I figured it would be better if we just did it ourselves and released it as kind of this exclusive kind of cool movie that we have total control over, and that if someone purchases it, It doesn't go to all these different hands and then we get a penny. It goes back to the filmmakers to, pay back the budget, So, it just felt the whole movie was so outlaw the whole time and so doing its own thing. It just felt like, let's just go through the finish line the same way. Let's do this our own way.
Speaking of the Blu-ray, what special features are on the Blu-ray?
There is a behind-the-scenes making of, and Hunter Johnson put this together. He plays Jody in the movie. He's a very talented editor and filmmaker in his own right. It's like over. I think it's about over an hour of interviews with most of the cast and crew, and lots of great behind-the-scenes stories of how we made this crazy movie happen, and all sorts of stories from the set, and just the rehearsal process and everything. So I'm really proud of that feature. I think I really think Hunter did a great job on that. And there's a commentary with myself, Charles Trudabal, and Hunter Johnson that goes over the movie. I think we cover some different ground than the behind the scenes. There's a lot of different stuff on the commentary. I wanted to make it pretty conscious not to duplicate stories and stuff so that each feature would have value.
How can people find the Blu-ray?
The Blu-ray right now is on Ocular Migraine's Shopify page. So if you just type in Ocular Migraine Productions on Google or on Shopify.com, it should come up. And also on all my social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, I have the link there, and then Twitter. So if you follow me at Aaron Mento, I have the link right there on my profile, my bio.
Now, is the film also available on VOD as well?
It's available on Amazon Prime Video to rent or to buy digitally.
What are some of your upcoming projects?
Right now, we just started filming my next movie called 16 Bits, which is a really kind of weird action comedy thriller about this 90s video game character who comes to life and goes on a killing spree with this guy who's playing the video game on his lonely birthday. So we're shooting that right now. And a lot of people from Ugly Sweater Party are going to be in that too.
Now, what made you decide to make a movie about a video game?
Well, I think what I really love is kind of offbeat buddy comedies. And it's really kind of like this weird buddy comedy between this guy who no one showed up for his midlife crisis birthday, and he's kind of way too much child at heart, and this just super fit, Street Fighter-esque video game character who comes out of a game and is basically his ideal version of himself, and but influencing the worst things about him. So I like the idea of nostalgia being damaging to some people.
Now, where can they find you and all the Ugly Sweater Party social media links?
You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at Aaron Mento. That's AARONMENTO. And then Ugly Sweater Party also has a Facebook page. They're all really easy to find.
I want to thank you, Aaron, for coming onto my podcast.
Oh, yeah, I had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, and have a good day.
You too, man. Thanks a lot.
For the latest news and information on Anthony T's Horror Show, you can check out Anthony T's Horror Show on these social media platforms, at Anthony T's Horror Show on Facebook, Instagram, and the Slasher app, at Anthony T's Horror on Twitter. Anthony T's Horror Show can be found on YouTube as well, at youtube.com/Anthony Thurber. You can find Doc Discussions on the web at www.docdiscussions.com, and you can find Anthony T's Horror Show on the web at anthonytshorrorshow.blogspot.com. Now this is the part of the segment called What Anthony T's Been Watching, and I kind of wished that I started the segment off with some living color cult of personality, but I could not do that because of copyright reasons. So You got the regular intro instead. And the reason why I wanted to use that song so badly, because the film I'm going to talk about, The Girl on the Third Floor, stars none other than CM Punk. If you're a wrestling fan, you know who I'm talking about. He's pretty much one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen. One of the most charismatic and controversial wrestlers to ever be in wrestling. And, quite frankly, I'm a huge CM Punk mock. So, there was a no-brainer that I was going to check out The Girl on the Third Floor. Now, this is a film that I've been looking forward to because CM Punk is in it. And the fact that this film also has been playing at some film festivals before its recent release on Dark Sky Films. Now, what did I think about this film? Was this just another Roddy Piper type B movie? Or was this actually a very good film? Thankfully, this was actually a very good film. Because if this is a Roddy Piper type film, we would probably be talking about how much of a guilty pleasure the film is. Because Roddy Piper is known for a lot of B movies like Hell Comes to Frogtown, They Live, which is done by John Carpenter, but you get the drift. His films are usually not this serious. The Girl on the Third Floor is a very serious horror film from start to finish. One of the reasons why I really liked this film a lot was Travis Stevens' direction and his screenplay. I thought he did a great job with the way he handled both the direction and the screenplay in the film. I like how he makes the scenes very entertaining, whether it's the atmosphere of the scene or the way he approaches each of the gory effects that this film has. It is done in a way that is very creepy and very downright disturbing at times, especially a scene in the film which I kind of felt a little disturbed about. I'm not telling you that scene, you have to see the film yourself, but he also has a very good screenplay as well. I like how he develops his two main characters in the film and their relationship. He also gives a very good backstory about the house in the film and why all these supernatural occurrences are happening. This is a very good film. I enjoyed this a lot. Another reason why this film is very good is not because I'm a CM Punk mock. It is because Phil Brooks, aka CM Punk, is actually very good in this film. He really does a good job making sure his character is very creepy, very dark, with some sort of mysterious past. I really enjoyed it. His performance. I would like to see Phil Brooks in more horror films, quite frankly. I think he can make a career, whether it's independent horror or the B-movie level. I think he can be an actor that can draw people to films in the independent horror world. The film also has very good performances also from Sarah Brooks and Trieste Kelly Dunn, but they both were very good here as well. This is a very creepy, dark, disturbing film people should check out. It's currently available on Blu-ray and DVD, and the Blu-ray doesn't have much features on it, as it just has the commentary track and trailers, but it has some really nice reversible cover art, which I liked a lot. So definitely pick up Girl on the Third Floor. Whether you're a fan of CM Punk or not, this is a very good film that I highly recommend you check out. I promised I'd do 2 films this episode to make up for not having a film that I've watched recently last episode. So the other film that I'm going to be talking about is The House by the Cemetery, the Lucio Fulci classic film. Now, this is a film that I really hold in high regard, as I really think this film is Lucio Fulci's second best film, right behind The Beyond. I know you people who love Zombie think Zombie is one of Fulci's best films, I still say it's a good film, but I would not put it in the top 2. I don't even know if I would put Zombie number 3 in terms of best Fulci films, because I really like the New York Ripper, even though it's very hard film to watch. Plus, I'm also a fan of his adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat as well. So, I don't know where Zombie lands on top Fulci films of all time, because it's definitely not 1 and 2, because The Beyond will always be number 1. The House by the Cemetery will always be number 2. And one of the reasons why I really love The House by the Cemetery was that this film really does a very good job building tension. It really does a very good job in hiding the monster all the way up to the last third of the film. The film also really has some really good performances in it as well. And it's also the film that really got me into wanting to watch Fulci's films, because at the time, the only Italian horror director that I really loved was Dario Argento. How can you not love his earlier films like Suspiria, Tenebrae, and Phenomenon? But with Fulci, it took a while until I came across this film one day on some streaming service. I can't remember which one at the moment, but I saw like the last third of the film. It looked very good, so I tried to find it when it came on again. Then once it came on again, I watched it entirely, and I've been in love with this film, as I really think it's one of Lucio Fulci's best films. And the film recently got a 3-disc limited edition release from Blue Underground, which includes a 4K restoration of the film. And I can tell you the 4K restoration is great here, as this makes this film look very, very good. As it's pretty much the best that I've seen this film in terms of transfer. The people at Blue Underground did a great job in the way they transferred this film into 4K, as it really is worth picking up alone if you really love this film. It is great to see this film restored in 4K. It looks better than it's ever been before. And this package is loaded. This is pretty much a 2 Blu-ray set and a music CD. This was a set that I was looking forward to from the moment this was announced, because I've been wanting to own the CD soundtrack for this film for quite a while. I've been even trying to go around trying to see if anybody was selling this on CD, as I was looking and looking and looking for this CD ever since I saw this movie, because I think the score in this film is excellent, as that's a par for the course for Lucio Fulci's films. They usually have a great soundtrack to them, like Dario Argento's films. This is definitely a must-have in your Blu-ray collection. It has a couple new features, as well as all the previous features from the previous Blu-ray release. Definitely pick this film up on Blu-ray, as this is a great package, and I really love how Blue Underground lately has done a great job with their 4K releases, as they really are giving you more for your dollar. Plus, I love the fact that they include CD soundtracks for these films, because they also are great and really worth listening to when you're not watching the film. You can just pop in the CD soundtrack. I just love these soundtracks they've put out recently. I know they did for Zombie and the New York Ripper as well. Definitely pick up this 3-disc set of House by the Cemetery. It has an excellent 4K restoration. Plus you get a CD soundtrack. plus a bunch of extras as well on the Blu-ray. This film and Blu-ray is highly recommended. What are you waiting for? Pick up this 3-disc limited edition Blu-ray of The House by the Cemetery. Now, not much happening on my website over at AnthonyT'sHorrorShow.blogspot. I will begin to update that site. I have not been updating that site. I've been so busy with life and other things that I haven't had time to update the site. That will be happening soon. Also, what will be happening soon, I will be getting to my video review of Abnormal Attraction. Haven't had time because I've been trying to rush this episode out before the end of January because February is Women in Horror Month here on Anthony T's Horror Show, so that's why I have not gotten to Abnormal Attraction yet. I'm hoping to get to that film very soon and have it up on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Anthony Thurber. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel as I'm going to try to create more content now since I have a new webcam and everything. So I will be creating new content soon. With that, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Anthony T's Horror Show. Have a good day and support indie horror.